Did you know that the Earth is estimated to be around 4.54 billion years old? The planet's journey began with the formation of the solar system, as dust and gas came together to form the Sun and the planets that orbit it. As the young Earth took shape, it was a violent and unstable place, with constant volcanic eruptions, meteorite impacts, and toxic gases filling the atmosphere. But despite these challenges, life emerged on the planet in the form of single-celled organisms that thrived in the oceans. Over time, these simple life forms evolved and diversified, developing new ways to survive and thrive in their ever-changing environment. Some developed hard shells to protect themselves from predators, while others developed the ability to photosynthesize, producing their own food from sunlight. As the eons passed, life on Earth continued to evolve and diversify, with new species emerging and old ones dying out. The planet went through several mass extinction events, wiping out entire groups of organisms and opening up new niches for others to fill. One of the most significant events in Earth's history came around 540 million years ago, during the Cambrian period. This was a time of explosive evolution, as new body plans and ways of life emerged at an unprecedented pace. The seas were teeming with life, from the first fish and early invertebrates to strange creatures with bizarre shapes and appendages. As time went on, the first animals began to move onto land, adapting to the new challenges and opportunities presented by the terrestrial environment. Over the course of millions of years, these early land dwellers evolved into amphibians, reptiles, and eventually mammals, with each group developing new adaptations to help them survive and thrive. Meanwhile, the Earth itself continued to change, with continents shifting and colliding, mountain ranges rising and eroding, and oceans rising and falling. Ice ages came and went, reshaping the landscape and influencing the course of evolution. As the planet entered the modern era, humans emerged as a dominant force, with the ability to shape the environment and influence the course of evolution like no other species before them. They built cities, cultivated crops, domesticated animals, and explored the farthest reaches of the planet and beyond. But this progress has not come without cost. As humans have continued to expand and grow, they have caused widespread environmental damage, with pollution, climate change, and habitat destruction threatening the survival of countless species. Today, the Earth stands at a crossroads, with the future of life on the planet hanging in the balance. But there is still hope, as people around the world work to address these challenges, to protect the environment, and to create a more sustainable and equitable world for all. The story of the Earth is a tale of constant change and evolution, of adaptation and resilience, and of the enduring power of life to endure and thrive in even the most challenging of circumstances. It is a story that reminds us of our shared history and our shared responsibility to protect and preserve the planet that we call home. The formation of the solar system is a complex and fascinating process that began about 4.6 billion years ago. At that time, the universe was just a few hundred million years old, and the materials that would eventually give rise to the planets were scattered throughout a vast region of space. The process began when a large cloud of gas and dust, known as a nebula, began to collapse under the force of its own gravity. As the cloud collapsed, it began to spin faster and faster, forming a disc-shaped structure with the central mass at the center. This disk of gas and dust, known as a protoplanetary disk, was the birthplace of the planets. The central mass, which would eventually become our Sun, began to heat up as it contracted, and eventually reached a temperature of over 10 million degrees Celsius. At this temperature, nuclear fusion reactions began to occur, and the Sun was born. The intense heat and radiation from the newborn star blew away much of the remaining gas and dust in the protoplanetary disk, leaving behind a collection of planetesimals, small rocky bodies that would eventually become the planets. Over millions of years, these planetesimals collided and merged, growing larger and larger until they formed the planets we know today. The inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are small and rocky, while the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, are much larger and composed mostly of gas and ice. The formation of the solar system was a slow and gradual process, taking place over millions of years. It was driven by the forces of gravity, which brought the materials together, and by the intense heat and radiation of the newborn Sun, which blew away much of the remaining gas and dust. The result was the creation of a complex and dynamic system of planets, moons, asteroids, and comets, which continues to evolve and change to this day. In recent years, astronomers have made great strides in understanding the formation of the solar system, using advanced telescopes and space probes to study the planets and other bodies in the solar system in great detail. This research has shed new light on the early history of our planet and our place in the universe, and has deepened our understanding of the complex and fascinating process of planetary formation. The evolution of the Earth. After its formation, the Earth went through a series of dramatic changes, including the formation of the continents, the emergence of life, and the evolution of the atmosphere. The early Earth was a harsh and hostile place, with a surface that was constantly bombarded by asteroids and comets. The first billion years of the Earth's history were marked by intense volcanic activity, which released vast amounts of gases into the atmosphere. This early atmosphere was primarily composed of carbon dioxide, water vapor, nitrogen, and methane, and was much denser than the current atmosphere. As the Earth cooled, the water vapor in the atmosphere began to condense and form oceans. These oceans were much shallower than the current oceans and were constantly replenished by volcanic activity. Over time, the Earth's surface began to solidify, and the first continents began to form. The formation of the continents was a slow and gradual process, taking place over millions of years. It was driven by the movement of tectonic plates, which caused the Earth's crust to crack and break apart, creating new land masses. The process of plate tectonics also led to the formation of mountain ranges and the creation of new ocean basins. The emergence of life on Earth is one of the most significant events in the planet's history. The earliest evidence of life dates back to around 3.5 billion years ago, when simple single-celled organisms began to appear in the oceans. These organisms were able to harness the energy of the sun through a process known as photosynthesis, which produced oxygen as a byproduct. Over time, the levels of oxygen in the atmosphere began to increase, creating a more hospitable environment for life. This process continued for billions of years, leading to the emergence of complex multicellular organisms and the evolution of a wide variety of plant and animal life. The evolution of the Earth's atmosphere was a critical factor in the development of life on the planet. The early atmosphere was primarily composed of carbon dioxide, which was gradually replaced by oxygen as a result of photosynthesis. This increase in oxygen levels created a protective ozone layer, which helped to shield the Earth from harmful ultraviolet radiation. Today, the Earth's atmosphere is composed of nitrogen, oxygen, and trace amounts of other gases, and plays a critical role in regulating the planet's climate and supporting life. However, the continued burning of fossil fuels and other human activities are causing the atmosphere to change, leading to global warming and other environmental problems. In summary, the evolution of the Earth is a complex and ongoing process that has been shaped by a variety of factors, including the formation of the continents, the emergence of life, and the evolution of the atmosphere. By studying the planet's history, scientists can gain a better understanding of the forces that have shaped the Earth over time and how it may continue to evolve in the future. The early Earth, dating back to around 4.6 billion years ago, was a vastly different place from the Earth we know today. It was a time of intense geological activity, with frequent volcanic eruptions and massive meteorite impacts that shaped the planet's surface. In addition, the atmosphere was composed of toxic gases that would be lethal to most forms of life today. The early Earth's surface was constantly changing due to volcanic activity. These eruptions released vast quantities of molten rock and gases, which formed new land masses and contributed to the formation of the planet's atmosphere. The lava flows and ash clouds from these eruptions would have covered vast areas of the early Earth, creating a hostile environment for any life forms that may have been present. In addition to volcanic activity, the early Earth was also heavily bombarded by meteorites and other space debris. These impacts caused massive craters to form on the surface and released enormous amounts of energy that would have altered the planet's geology and atmosphere. Some of these impacts were so large that they caused mass extinctions, wiping out entire species of life. The atmosphere of the early Earth was also vastly different from what we see today. It was composed mainly of gases like methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide, which were produced by volcanic activity, and the impacts of meteorites. These gases would have made it impossible for most forms of life as we know it to survive. Despite the hostile conditions of the early Earth, there is evidence that simple life forms may have emerged as early as 3.5 billion years ago. These primitive organisms would have had to adapt to the extreme environment and compete for limited resources in order to survive. Over time, the evolution of these organisms would have led to the emergence of more complex life forms, eventually giving rise to the rich biodiversity that we see on Earth today. In conclusion, the early Earth was a violent and unstable place, shaped by intense geological activity, meteorite impacts, and a toxic atmosphere. It was a time of constant change and upheaval, but it also provided the conditions necessary for life to emerge and evolve. Understanding the early Earth is key to understanding the history of our planet and the forces that have shaped it over billions of years. The origin of life is one of the most fascinating and mysterious topics in the field of science. While the exact mechanism by which life emerged on Earth is still not fully understood, there is evidence to suggest that it happened around 3.5 billion years ago in the form of single-celled organisms that thrived in the oceans. Scientists believe that life may have emerged from the complex chemical reactions that occurred in the primordial soup of the early Earth. This soup was composed of a mixture of simple organic compounds, such as amino acids, sugars, and nucleotides, which were formed through various natural processes, such as volcanic activity and lightning strikes. Over time, these compounds may have combined to form more complex molecules, eventually leading to the emergence of living organisms. The earliest life forms on Earth were simple, single-celled organisms such as bacteria and archaea. These organisms were able to survive and reproduce in the harsh conditions of the early Earth, using a variety of metabolic processes to obtain energy and nutrients. They were also able to adapt to changes in their environment, allowing them to thrive and evolve over time. One of the key factors that allowed life to emerge and evolve on Earth was the presence of liquid water. Water is a unique substance that has a number of properties that make it ideal for supporting life. For example, it can dissolve a wide variety of molecules, including those necessary for biochemical reactions, and it can also moderate temperature changes, providing a stable environment for living organisms. Over time, the evolution of single-celled organisms led to the emergence of more complex life forms, such as multicellular organisms and eventually animals and plants. These organisms were able to exploit new niches in ecosystems, leading to the development of diverse and complex ecosystems on Earth. In conclusion, the origin of life on Earth is a complex and still poorly understood topic, but there is evidence to suggest that it emerged around 3.5 billion years ago in the form of single-celled organisms that thrived in the oceans. The emergence of life on Earth was likely facilitated by the complex chemical reactions that occurred in the early Earth's primordial soup, as well as the unique properties of water. The evolution of these simple organisms over time led to the development of complex and diverse ecosystems, ultimately giving rise to the rich biodiversity that we see on Earth today. The evolution of life on Earth is a fascinating process that has occurred over billions of years. It is a story of constant change and adaptation, with new species emerging and old ones dying out as the planet's environment and climate shifts. The process of evolution has been driven by a combination of genetic variation, natural selection, and environmental factors. One of the key drivers of evolution is genetic variation, which arises from mutations in the DNA of organisms. These mutations can be beneficial, neutral, or harmful, and can give rise to new traits and characteristics. Over time, these changes can accumulate, leading to the emergence of new species. Another key factor in evolution is natural selection, which is the process by which organisms with certain traits are more likely to survive and reproduce than those without those traits. This can lead to the spread of beneficial traits throughout a population, and ultimately the emergence of new species. The evolution of life on Earth has been shaped by a variety of environmental factors, such as changes in climate, geological events, and the emergence of new ecosystems. These factors have played a key role in driving the emergence of new species and the extinction of others. Throughout Earth's history, there have been several mass extinction events that have wiped out large numbers of species. These events were caused by a variety of factors, such as volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and shifts in climate. While these events were devastating, they also created opportunities for new species to emerge and fill the ecological niches left vacant by the extinct species. One of the most famous examples of evolution is the process by which humans emerged from our primate ancestors. Over millions of years, our ancestors evolved a number of traits that allowed them to walk upright, develop larger brains, and use tools. These adaptations allowed them to survive and thrive in new environments, leading to the emergence of Homo sapiens, the species that we belong to today. In conclusion, the evolution of life on Earth is a complex and ongoing process that has been driven by a combination of genetic variation, natural selection, and environmental factors. Over time, new species have emerged and old ones have died out, driven by changes in the planet's environment and climate. While mass extinction events have been devastating, they have also opened up new opportunities for evolution and the emergence of new species. The story of evolution is one of constant change and adaptation, and it is still unfolding today. The history of Earth is a story of constant change, adaptation, and evolution. Over the past 540 million years, there have been several key events and periods that have shaped the planet and the life that inhabits it. One of the most significant events in Earth's history was the Cambrian explosion, which occurred around 540 million years ago. During this period, there was a burst of evolutionary innovation, with new body plans and ways of life emerging at an unprecedented pace. This explosion of biodiversity laid the foundations for the vast array of animal life that exists today. Around 400 million years ago, the first animals began to move onto land, adapting to the new challenges and opportunities presented by the terrestrial environment. This colonization of land led to the emergence of new groups of animals, such as insects and reptiles, and ultimately to the evolution of mammals and birds. Dinosaurs emerged around 230 million years ago and dominated the planet for millions of years. After a catastrophic meteorite impact wiped out the dinosaurs, mammals emerged as the dominant group of animals. This led to the emergence of humans around 200,000 years ago, who evolved complex societies and cultures that have shaped the planet in profound ways. The planet has gone through several ice ages over the past 2.5 million years, with glaciers covering large parts of the Earth's surface and influencing the course of evolution. These ice ages were driven by a range of factors, including changes in the Earth's orbit and fluctuations in the levels of atmospheric gases. Today, the Earth faces a range of environmental challenges, including climate change, pollution, deforestation, and habitat destruction. These challenges threaten the survival of countless species and the stability of the planet's ecosystems. The Anthropocene is a proposed geological epoch that marks the period of time during which human activity has had a significant impact on the Earth's ecosystems and geology. Despite these challenges, there is still hope for the future. People around the world are working to address these issues, protect the environment, and create a more sustainable and equitable world for all. There are many initiatives in place to combat climate change, protect biodiversity, and promote sustainable development. In conclusion, the history of Earth is a story of constant change and adaptation, with new species emerging and old ones dying out. The planet has gone through several key periods and events that have shaped the course of evolution, from the Cambrian explosion to the emergence of humans. Today, the Earth faces a range of environmental challenges, but there is still hope for the future. By working together, we can protect the planet and create a more sustainable and equitable world for all.
watch out, fool.